Welcome back to the Broad Street Sports Podcast featuring Zachary Chaby, and today I'll be giving you my Week 6 reactions and my Week 7 picks for the week. So we're just going to start it off with Thursday Night Football and go from there. The Niners had a very convincing win against the Seahawks. The Seahawks were out of this most of the first half, but then they ended up coming back with Laviska Shenault punt return touchdown and then a Kenneth Walker rushing touchdown. They were only a touchdown away. They had the ball, and then Geno Smith had two costly turnovers, one on the first drive of the game and then one in the fourth quarter that really cost the Seahawks. That's really the main reason they lost this game, in my opinion. And the Niners, they were just able to sustain good offense. Deebo Samuel got in the end zone. George Kittle was in there twice. Kyle Juszczyk. And then I swear, the Niners just keep finding running backs out of nowhere. They had a running back replace Jordan Mason. He went for over 99 yards and 10 carries. Mason had 9 for 73 before he got hurt. But really, other than that, just a nice convincing win for the Niners as they are 3-3 right now. Moving on to the Sunday slate of games, the Bears destroyed the Jaguars in London by the score of 35-16. This is probably, in my opinion, Caleb Williams' best game he's played his entire season. He just was able to get it to his receivers. Keenan Allen had 2 touchdowns. Cole Kmet had 2 touchdowns, and then DeAndre Swift was able to get into the end zone. But for a Bears fan, it's definitely a good sign if Caleb Williams can continue to progress like this, because the NFC North is insane right now. Every team is a 4-2 and above, which is crazy in my opinion. So it's definitely interesting to see. But then for the Jags, they had a nice win against the Colts secondary. Against the Colts, but also the Colts secondary, and they just played a whole different animal this week. The Bears are so much better than the Colts are, and they weren't able to get it to guys like Brian Thomas. Evan Ingram was back and had over 100 yards, but Gabe Davis was the lone touchdown scorer on the receiving end. And really, other than that, the Jaguars, I don't know where they're going to move from here. I could see Doug Peterson being fired anytime soon. From now, like if they lose this Sunday against the Patriots, I could easily see him getting fired. So moving on to the 1 o'clock slot games, the Buccaneers and the Saints. Oh my God, this was a crazy game if anyone watched it. It was insane from what I saw. Like, the Buccaneers were up early. The Saints stormed back and scored 27 points in the second quarter, which is insane. And then the Bucs just went on straight dominance in the second half, putting up 51 points in the Superdome, which is insane. And for the Saints right now, it's not getting any better for them. They're just had their 4th straight loss. Rashid Shaheed and Olave are both out for Thursday night, and Shaheed's injury could be long, like could be a sustained injury for a couple weeks. But for the Saints, I don't know where they move from here. Derek Carr's hurt. Both the receivers are hurt. So it should be interesting to see what they want to do, especially with Spencer Rattler starting last week. The rookie quarterback looked pretty good. But as a Saints fan, I want to know, I don't know what they're going to do. So anyone who is a Saints fan, I feel bad for you, but there's not much you can really do. It's just unfortunate at this point. And for the Buccaneers, it was a rough week before then against the Atlanta Falcons. Losing that game in overtime was rough. But then Baker Mayfield, he had a couple turnovers in this game, but then just looked like he was on a tear. He got it to Chris Godwin, who's been playing insane. And then Sean Tucker, a running back out of nowhere, just put up over 100 yards. Like, he outplayed Bucky Irving and Rashard White, which is crazy to see. And the Bucs, them and the Falcons, those are my 2 favorites in the NFC South right now, because those 2 teams I feel like are just going to be battling out because the Saints are injured, the Panthers aren't that good, so it should be interesting to see what happens there. Moving on to the next game, this is the game I was most intrigued about, the Commanders and the Ravens. Even though the Commanders did not win this game, I still think Jayden Daniels showed why he's the best quarterback in this draft class, and here's why. He was able to go into Baltimore and go toe-to-toe with Lamar Jackson. He was in there most of the game, and looking at the score, they were only a touchdown away from tying the game. So Jayden Daniels is looking great right now. He already looks better of what Lamar Jackson has been, because if you think about it, Jayden Daniels already has that deep ball developed. It took a couple years for Lamar to develop that deep ball, so that's a good sign for him. And overall, the Commanders are just a scary team right now. As an Eagles fan, I'm very worried about them in the division. I easily think they could take it, and Jayden Daniels just looks like the truth. It's as simple as that. And the Ravens, they just got their 4th straight win, moving to 4-2, which is good for them. And anyone who said Derrick Henry's washed, I don't know what they're talking about, because Derrick Henry looks like he's ready to go. He's locked in, and he finally feels like he's in a great offense once again. So, moving on to the next game, this was just straight dominance from the Packers. Marvin Harrison also went out in the first quarter, so that was rough, especially for any fantasy owners who had him, me included. But overall, the Packers were just able to assert their dominance in this game, except for one pick by Jordan Love. He played a fantastic game, had 4 touchdowns, 2 to Romeo Doubs, 1 to Christian Watson, and then 1 to his favorite guy, Jaden Reed. So just a great win for the Packers. They moved to 4-2 on the season. And I just still think they're still very much a threat in this NFC because they're very dangerous because they're just a young, hungry team ready to do anything. So, and then for the Cardinals, it's tough losing your receiver in the first quarter. And then McBride had a good game. The 1 touchdown was to Marco Wilson. But really, other than that, the Cardinals should be interesting to see how they move from here. But we'll see. Moving on to the next game, we got the Colts and the Titans. Joe Flacco does it again. He goes into Tennessee and beats them. And I just think they said Anthony Richardson's coming back next week. I just don't think that. Flacco has been great for them. And if you really think about it, like, he should be the starting quarterback because he has more experience than Richardson. And I feel like they just don't let Richardson heal enough. And, like, he still needs time to progress. I feel like when they took him, they didn't want to start him initially, but they really didn't have another option. But I feel like ever since that injury last year, he has so much potential in him, Richardson. I just feel like he's too cautious, and his just throwing ability hasn't improved one bit. So, but the Colts at the end of the day got the win. And then for the Titans, it's just a dumpster fire over there. Will Levis, who looked like the franchise guy, might not even be the quarterback at the end of the season. That's how bad it's been for him this season and like the Titans as a whole. So, but moving on to the next game, the Texans and the Patriots. The Texans just went into New England and asserted their dominance very quickly. Even though this was the first career game for Drake May, which is tough, he still played a great game. Got the ball to Demario Douglas, Hunter Henry, was just able to play a good style of quarterback for especially for his first career game. I was very impressed in that. I mean, to go in there, I know it's home, but it's still Texans defense, which is very good with Derek Stingley, Danielle Hunter, Will Anderson, Jalen Petrie, Jimmy Ward, guys like that. Like, to go in there and have a good performance is a very good sign for Patriots fan. And maybe when they can finally get this offensive line together, this receiving core actually very solid. Who knows what they can do? So. And then for the Texans, Joe Mixon was back, which was good for them. And they have Nico Collins on the IR now, so that sucks for them. But, I mean, they were able to get the ball to Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Dalton Schultz. They just were able to sustain their style of offense, and their defense got them a couple turnovers to win the game. So, and then moving on to the next game, the Eagles and the Browns. This game, from what I saw, it's just the Eagles are just such a disappointment right now. It's very sad. I mean, This is after 2 weeks of preparation they put up this performance, which is very upsetting. They were barely able to get the win against the Browns. So, I mean, there's not much to say about this game. The Browns, we already know what type of team they are. The Eagles, who knows what the type of team they are. So it should be interesting to see how the Eagles play next week against the Giants and how the Browns just go from here, especially after trading Amari Cooper. So. And then moving on, we got the 4 o'clock slate games. The Chargers beat the Broncos. The Broncos were down most of this game, and then I think they had like a mini comeback towards the fourth quarter to win them the game. So, but overall, the Chargers, good win for them. The Broncos, they finally lose their first game in a while. They were on a 3-game win streak. This team's young, and it's ready to go, and it should be exciting to see how the Broncos play out the next couple of years because I think Bo Nix could be a good quarterback for them. So. Moving on to the next game, the Steelers and the Raiders. The Raiders just got destroyed, and on top of that, now they don't even have Devontae Adams, and Max Crosby seems like he's being shopped around too. So, I mean, the Raiders, there's just a dumpster fire of a franchise, I think, at this point. Like, I mean, there's nothing really looking up for them. They lost Josh Jacobs. They traded Devontae Adams, and they might even lose Max Crosby at this point. And the Steelers were just able to go in there and assert their dominance. They barely had to pass the ball. Fields had over 100 yards rushing. Najee Harris over 140 yards and a touchdown. Them just going in there and asserting their dominance shows that the Raiders are just not a great team and are going to be rebuilding for a while unless they finally do something positive for their franchise. So, and then moving on to the next game, the Falcons and the Panthers. The Panthers put up a good fight, but at the end of the day, the Falcons were just the better team, and Bijan Robinson actually had his first great game of the season, was able to show up and show out, so good for him. Tyler Aguilar was in the offense, Drake London was in the offense, so just a great sign for the Falcons as a whole as they moved to 4-2 also, and currently are number 1 in the NFC South, so that's great for them. Moving on to the next game, oh my God, this was a murder on the field. This was insane. The Lions just went in there and asserted their dominance. They blew the doors off the Cowboys, and it's even funnier on Jerry Jones' birthday. That's the type of performance the Cowboys put up. Let's be honest here right now. The Cowboys don't have Brandon Aubrey. They don't win half their games. I'll say that with very much confidence. Brandon Aubrey's been their best player on the team, and it's not even a doubt. And they paid a quarterback over $60 million, and you see what he's doing. He's been playing terrible. Dak is ass. He is. And I don't know why Jerry Jones gave him that contract. I mean, he's not a good quarterback. He can't win in the playoffs, and now he can't even get it to CeeDee Lamb, who's probably their best play. He's their best offensive player now, and he's just not getting him the ball. And then when he tries to get it to these other guys in the offense, it's just not working. And then the Lions, they were just having fun out there. They were running trick plays on trick plays. They had the offensive lineman out there for a couple plays receiving, and they were just running the ball, passing the ball. Whatever they wanted to do in this game, they were able to do because the Cowboys' offense sucks. Their defense sucks. And just overall, the Cowboys, they're 0-3 at home now. So talk about not having home field advantage. So just a good win for the Lions. And overall, the Cowboys, I don't know where they go from here because now they're going to go play the San Francisco 49ers after the bye week. So moving on to Sunday Night Football, a very boring game if anyone did watch it. The Bengals just won 17-7. The Giants weren't able to sustain much offense at all except for a Tyrone Tracy touchdown. And then Joe Burrow probably had the play of the game with the 50-yard rushing touchdown on 3rd and 18. So not much to really talk about this game. Moving on to the next game, the Bills and the Jets. So this game was interesting. A lot of penalties from what I saw like watching the game. There was a lot of penalties, and overall the Bills, it was just like, and there was a lot of missed kicks that cost both the Jets and the Bills. So it was just interesting to see. But overall, the Bills just were able to get the win. But the bigger story of these two teams, at the day after they played, the next day, Amari Cooper traded to the Bills, and then Davante Adams reuniting with Aaron Rodgers in New York. I feel like the Amari Cooper trade is going to make more of an impact than the Davante Adams trade because I feel like already firing your head coach, I feel like there's not much to salvage left for the Jets season. I don't think it's going to be saved. While the Bills, on the other hand, they're in prime position to win the AFC East. They just got Josh Allen, a legit number one receiver, so it should be interesting to see what happens. But moving on to the second half of the show, my picks for the week. These are my picks for Week 7. I got the Broncos over the Saints tomorrow night on Thursday Night Football. I got the Jags over the Patriots in London. The Lions over the Vikings, the Bills over the Titans, the Colts over the Dolphins, the Falcons over the Seahawks, the Texans over the Packers, the Bengals over the Browns, the Eagles over the Giants, the Raiders over the Rams, the Commanders over the Panthers, the Chiefs over the Niners, the Jets over the Steelers, the Ravens over the Bucks, and the Chargers over the Cardinals. Other than that, that's going to wrap up today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.